Okay, morning, guys. So, morning session is finished. It's Monday, 3rd of December. I don't normally trade the morning session, but decided to jump in on a couple of the opportunities from today. So, we'll take a look through the strategy. So, we're into December, so started a new month. But if you go to the website, and there's various links to get hold of the diary that you can catch up with. Hi, Granary. And you can catch up with the instructions behind the strategy, how I'm using it and how you can use it yourself. There's also an opportunity for you to go and download a copy of the strategy for yourself. If you're a Sierra Charts user, then I can give you an access to the strategy. I can have it installed on your platform for you and give you some days opportunity to have a look at it, see if it works for you. If you're not a Sierra Charts user already, then I've set up a tutorial on the website that will help you go and install a trial version of Sierra Charts so you can go and have a play with it and see if it suits you. The software is premium software, so you either need a brokerage account with a futures provider or someone that gives it to you for free, or you're going to need to pay the subscription to have an account with Sierra Charts. But I highly recommend it. I don't work for them, but I like it. I think it's good. All right. So I've just got a question here. Hi, Chris. Is Sierra Charts just for Windows? Yeah, I think it is, Hardeep. And there are two ways around that if you're a Mac user or another operating system user. One, you can use Wine or an emulator program that allows you to install Windows-based programs on a Mac. So that's one way to do it. I don't use that method myself. The way I use it is to install a VPS. Just go and get a Windows server VPS, and you can install Sierra Charts on that, and then you can remotely log into your VPS from a Mac and you can use the same functionality. It's a good idea to have a VPS anyway, so you probably should have one already if you don't. So that's the one I'd probably recommend to go for. Just make sure you get plenty of RAM with a VPS, because RAM is so essential, and they're normally pretty low on RAM in the VPS, so just make sure you load up on that. Okay. And the second point, the CPU, the cores, you won't need to get too many cores because Sierra Charts is actually pretty lightweight. Is VPS software? Well, no. Well, technically, yes, but it's a service more than software. You'll need to buy a VPS from a server, a provider, and they virtually allocate space on a server for you to log into. Right, so just got a little bit sidetracked there, but hopefully that answers your question, Hardeep. So let's just get back onto this. So November's numbers are in. I started recording all of the numbers from this strategy from the 19th of November, and the numbers are in. So you can see all of that on the website. I did 143 recorded trades, and which is quite a lot. But, you know, this is an intraday strategy. You're normally going to get somewhere between 5 to 15 trades a day, somewhere in that region. And the return so far is 45%, which is pretty good. I've got a win rate of 41%, wins versus losses. And I'm normally looking for 4-to-1 reward on most of my trades, but I don't always get that because sometimes I close the trade out early. So go and check out those results. And we're just going to jump straight in on December then. So first things first, this morning we had a massive gap on pretty much all of the markets, certainly on the DAX. And that kind of supports my idea that we're running into an early Santa rally. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. As to what my predictions are going to be for the market, I'm going to leave that aside because this strategy doesn't really care about my predictions. But I went in with a predetermined bias that I was probably going to be looking for longs, slightly scared that we're already massively extended and we've got the VWAP warnings over here with the yellow candles. So I was thinking to myself, maybe there's not many opportunities to buy unless we get a huge retracement. And if we do get a huge retracement, it's probably going to look to try and close the gap. But we didn't quite get that. So starting off with the DAX, you can see this ridiculous gap here. Haven't even attempted to close it. Maybe the second half of the session we'll dig into it, but I don't know if we'll get a full gap close, certainly not today. That's a pretty big move. So the first signal that came in from the strategy this morning was this one over here. Let me just center the screen up. Here you go. Was this guy over here? It was a buy signal. I took it, but I was late, and I decided that I would go for it simply because we were extended. We got the VWAP warnings over here, but we did get this period of retracement, and we bounced from VWAP. So I was quite happy to just continue to buy despite being pretty extended intraday. 300 points up after a gap does sound aggressive. I appreciate that. But when you catch momentum, sometimes the DAX doesn't retrace. We all know that. So I was willing to take the risk. It didn't work out. I got stopped out. Game over. So that one didn't work. This sell signal could have been a valid trade. I decided not to take it for the simple fact that I had a predetermined bias to look for longs only on the DAX. So I ignored the sell. But the idea would have been very simple. Once that candle closed, the stop loss would have been either here or here, depending on what your risk would have been. But if we chose this guy here, you'd have probably got in somewhere around here as the candle opened, and you look for 4 to 1. And that would have been it. And the likelihood of this one would have been a loser, as it would have closed out here with this white bluish candle here. So it wouldn't have been a full stop loss, but it would have been a loser. As soon as you close above this super trend line, just get out of the trade. And not that long after that, there was a long here. Again, I got in late, but this time it worked to my advantage because I got in at a better price. Whereas this one over here, I got in late at a bad price. It's just one of those things. It happens. Swings and roundabouts. And you'll see the numbers here. That this is 144 and 147. And that will relate to the spreadsheet. Okay. Which will with the trade numbers. So we're now in the December tab on the spreadsheet. And the first one was trade 144. It was a loser, just over a stop loss for me by a fraction of a point. And 147, which is this long here, I got trailed out. So let's just talk you through that. So there's a second signal here. I ignore second signals. As soon as I'm in one, I don't add to the position. I just leave it. And I'm watching a trail of this super trend line. Very simple. It continually makes intraday sort of minor higher highs and higher lows until this guy here actually took me out. I had my stop loss trail just behind this shelf, and it just took it out. In fact, I think it was actually this candle here that just spiked it, the sort of bluish whitish one before the wider one. It just sort of tagged it and took me out, but it doesn't really matter. It was the same sort of area. So I can move that circle over. And I got taken out of 543.09 over here for a pretty small win, really. It was about 3 points, 1/3%. So a bit disappointing overall because it was looking a little bit more promising. Anyway, never mind. There was a sell here that was valid, and I didn't take that trade either. Had I have taken the trade, I probably would have got in down here, and my stop loss would have been starting to trail. Possibly this guy would have taken me out. It didn't close above the super trend, but if I was trailing it, it would have spiked me. But technically, you could argue that this trade should still have actually be in play and still be in this short now. But like I said, I wasn't interested in shorting it earlier on, so I ignored it. All right, let's take a look at some of the other ones. We've got FTSE down here. The first valid signal of the day was a long, which I ignored, which was this guy here. And I ignored it for the same reason or concern that I had from the DAX. We had these yellow VWAP warnings here, which means we were closing above the deviation band. And I just felt it was too extended after a large gap. This gap just went on and on and on. And I just thought with FTSE, it tends to have less momentum on a Monday morning normally. So I made a decision to not go for it, but it would have worked out quite well. And stop loss would have been somewhere down here. You maybe got in on this guy. You could have got yourself just under 1% out of that, but more likelihood would have been I'd have been closed out on this candle here at pretty much break even. But anyway, I didn't get in on that one. What I did get in on, however, was this, which was a short, my only short of the day so far. I just, in hindsight, maybe I should have reconsidered this because it was a VWAP bounce in hindsight, but I wasn't to know. But it just started showing an aggressive acceleration. And I just thought maybe this would be a time for a retrace, at least kind of dig into this a little bit, maybe come and test the start of the gap. It didn't work out that way, and I got stopped out. So that was an easy stop loss. And I did jump into a long pretty much as a reverse. So as soon as that was stopped out, jumped straight back into another long. And that one was better. Started doing really, really well. Moved my stop loss to break even, and then started trailing behind these guys. And then unfortunately got taken out here. So about 7 points or something from that, about 0.75% gained. So 4 trades, it's all I've done this morning. And overall, I'm down by about 1%. I had 2 full stop losses and 2 trailed profits. So technically my win rate's 50%, but I don't really like that because I only managed to get a small amount on those wins. But anyway, that's me off to a kind of a pretty average start for the day. Dow, VWAP warnings straight into the session open, so I pretty much discarded the Dow straight away. With that kind of gap, moving sideways, running straight into a deviation band this early into the session, I just thought I'm not interested in buying it, which was what the first signal was. So I ignored that one. Perhaps I should have considered a short, but I figured I'd already had one on the FTSE. I didn't want to go too crazy on shorts, considering I've got a bias of being bullish on the DAX. That might seem confusing. I didn't want to overload on shorts, so I just left it. And in hindsight, this would have been quite a nice short. Stop losses would have been somewhere up here. You'd have probably got on the bottom of this one here, and 1 to 2% could have been gained on this little move at its peak, but I would have missed out on that one. If you'd have just trailed behind this, there would have been a little bit of profit in there as well. You'd have been taken out somewhere around here. There was a long opportunity there. I didn't take that. Under different circumstances, maybe I could have done, because there was a VWAP bounce, and with the momentum on the Dow, when it does tend to catch a runner, you normally get quite a lot of points out of it. But I didn't trade the Dow at all. So this one would have probably done pretty poorly, and then this short you'd still be in just about by the skin of your teeth. So we'll see how that plays out over this break. Now, I had a question on Telegram. What's the grey? Well, I've kind of covered this already on other videos, but the grey is just my session boundary. I don't trade in the grey unless a trade is already open. I only trade in the white. And my session times are between 8 and 11 UK time. Have a break between 11 and 1. Just go and get some lunch, review the numbers, see if there's anything that I've done wrong, and then come back for the second session in the afternoon, which is 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock. All right, that's it. Okay, so that's the Dow. A couple of signals, I suppose, but not the. There hasn't really been a momentum move of any kind of significance on the Dow this morning. And the Euro stocks, I've just completely ignored the Euro stocks altogether. I barely looked at it this morning, so it looks pretty much the same as the DAX by proxy, just a lot less volatile. Huge gap, VWAP bands, couple of buy signals early on. I would have ignored those under any circumstance because of the VWAP warnings. That short was a possibility, but it's a similar situation to before. I already had the FTSE short, I think, around about that time. So just ignored it. And then, yeah, the rest, I didn't even look at the Euro stocks, but these would have been the signals that it came from. Right, so that is pretty much it. Not that much to discuss for this session, but there might be some coming up in the afternoon and also for the rest of the week. I'll do these sessions if you feel that they're interesting or useful for you. I'll run them a bit more regularly, and we can discuss things and get into it in a bit more detail. If you want the strategy for yourself, then I will publish this video and I'll put a link in the description below. You can contact me on Telegram and get all of that kind of stuff there as well. There is an article on the website with all of the instructions on there, so I'll just point you to that, and it should answer all your questions. You'll just need to make sure that you've got Sierra Charts installed. If you've already got it, great, it's easy to install. If you don't already have it, you'll need to go and get it. It's a small learning curve, but I'll try and limit that as much as I can by helping you out. Right, guys. So I guess my overall thoughts for the DAX at the moment, and let's just quickly look at that, will be this. So my daily chart is as follows. We're in a regression channel that's clearly bearish, as you can tell. Now, we have had this overhead downsloping high-to-high trend line that's been a trend barrier. This double bottom was interesting because with bullish divergence at the bottom of this channel, it suggested there could be a bounce. I wanted to see a break above this downsloper. Not only have we broken above it, we've gapped it. So that's a pretty strong sign of intent. What we now need to see is how we react to the middle of this regression channel, or some people might say that the 50 EMA, which is what this line here is, could be significant. Yeah, well, however you want to cut it. The main thing is, can we continue to make higher highs and higher lows on the hourly? That's how I'm going to be cutting this. So this is pretty much our first sign. We need to hold the 208 after a gap close, which could happen. Maybe we'll only get 50% of that gap, which will be somewhere around about this high. But a retracement to here, we need to see how we react to that and whether we can hold it. And if we do, and then break above the 566, we're clearly in a bullish trend. So, and that's a good sign for a Santa rally. So that's what I'm looking for. If that doesn't happen, then, well, it doesn't really matter. There's no point in predicting what the DAX does. It doesn't care what we think. It will do what it wants to do. We'll just catch the momentum moves. If it continues to move to the downside, then we will profit from that because we can just simply stick in and hold onto a short. This is another way of looking at it. I've just drawn a very basic fork using this guy as a pivot. 1, 2, 3 is my pivots. The fork has drawn a median line straight through the middle here, and you can see how we gapped the median line originally, held it, dug into it, kind of a little bit of a wash, and then it's just zoomed straight up to the upper median line parallel. So I'm not surprised to see it kind of pause around here, but really the true test is now going to be the 686. So maybe we're going to see something like that. So we'll wait and see as to whether or not we get that. All right, guys, I'll leave it there just as to not make this video too long. But if you want to leave some comments or send me a message on Telegram, give me some feedback on whether this session would be useful to run more regularly, please do let me know. I'm going to do it for myself anyway, but if it's helpful for you guys, then I will run it. All right, have a great trading day, and we'll catch up with you guys soon. Take care.